So as things stand, Juventus will just about make it in. Roma, what a season it's been for them, an absolute roller coaster. They were near the relegation zone when Ranieri took over, and now they could finish in the top four if results go their way on the final match day. But in terms of European football, no Milan. Here's just a reminder, though, of the final fixtures. Lazio, they're going to take on Lecce. Roma are at Torino, and Juventus at Venezia, who sit in 19th place as things stand. 29 points Venezia have got on the season. Grell, where does this leave Milan, though? I mean, today, to get beat by Roma, to not have any European football next season, it's just gone from bad to worse, hasn't it?
Better for them, though, I think. Seriously, better, because if they win Coppa Italia, Matteo is standing right behind the camera.
Not financially.
But better for them, because I think if they win Coppa Italia, there were some Milan fans and some people that would have looked at that and said, well, 2 trophies, 1 season, this is not bad. You know, let's move forward with Concacaf, with the project, with everything that they've been doing, with the sort of the order, you know, the way they've done business and the way they've played their football. If they win today, then maybe they're closer to the Champions League, Europa League spots, and then you say, okay, maybe it's not so bad of a season, maybe we're overreacting. But the reality is they spent money in the summer, didn't get it done, looked like a bunch of individuals, didn't look good under Fonseca, don't look good against teams that sit in low against them. They don't have a clear identity. They don't play 2 halves of football. They did a mini rebuild where they bring in the guys like João Felix, who did nothing until today. He scored his first goal, which was a tap-in at the top of the box. Right? So now Milan have to look at this season and say, this is complete failure. There's no positives really to take away from this, maybe aside from Pulisic having a pretty good season, one of the best seasons of his career, and Reinders as well. But everything else, you got to look at that and say, okay, we've got this wrong, massively wrong. Where can we change and where can we rebuild and where can we make better? Because Milan fans deserve better. The club deserves better with the history that it has. And now these results have showed it. This is not the way forward in any way.
There's 0 chance that Conceição stays next season, right?
I can't see a world where it exists, but I'm not sure what everyone else is thinking.
Yeah, but you're now looking for potentially a Champions League manager with no Champions League, right? Or a European-type manager with no Europe to play in, right? And I said it in week 1, we were here, and I said, for me, success would be if Milan qualified for Champions League. I didn't think this team was good. I didn't think they're built properly. We didn't know about Fonseca. I was actually excited when he came. I was one of the guys who said, yeah, you know what, I'm okay with this. So we'll see how it goes. But 38 games don't lie, right? Okay, if you're 12 games in, well, we were talking about Empoli, right? A couple games in, they're at the top of near the top of the 38 games, Poppy, it doesn't lie to you, right? If you have just a small sample size, maybe you get fooled a little bit. But they're right where they should be because they deserve where they are right now.
It also shows that Fonseca was not the problem. It's clearly he was not the only issue at this club. The problem with what you said, though, Grella, that it's good. It's financially, it's the issue. You needed Europa League for the money.
No,
now
it's not good for that reason.
Those guys that you mentioned, Reinders, now the rumor is Manchester City is going to come calling. So you're not going to be able to allure those same players. Maybe some of them would stay for Europa League. Now you're not in Europe at all. That's a different caliber of coaches, of players, who's going to stay, who's going to go. I get what you're saying with that, but I think for a club like Milan, it was such a disappointment, the Coppa Italia. I don't think Conceição would have stayed either way. I don't think if he won, he would have stayed. I don't think if he lost, he would have stayed. Again, he's also one that it's not only on his fault. This is from the top down. Milan made a lot of poor decisions, and they're the most underperforming team, I would say, out of any club in Europe.
But you reap what you sow. It was not built properly. They didn't have good performances, like Tony says, over 38 games. And you're not going to get European football, regardless of financial impact. It was not built properly, and you didn't merit it. So that's the good thing, is that they say, okay, well, this is not the standard for AC Milan. We have to change things, I think, for sure. But yes, the fact that they miss European football is a disaster financially and all over the place. Being able to keep their best players, disaster for AC Milan.
Champions League financially, if we're talking at this moment that Europa League finances for Milan are that important that the club can't exist, we're in a lot of trouble. The club's in a lot of trouble, right? Champions League, moving on to second phase and knockout rounds, okay, that's financially big-time money. But if we're talking about Milan and worried about Europa League finances right now, the club's in trouble. At the moment.
It's worrying how much money they have actually spent, because now the reality is we could see for the 3rd time in 12 months this Milan look completely new.
You know, I've watched Milan since 1990. I used to go to the stadium with my dad during the Invincibles, one of the greatest teams of all time. I've watched every game of Milan since I can remember. This is the biggest failure of a season in my lifetime for Milan.
Wow.
This team has the talent to compete for a Scudetto. This team is better individually than Napoli. They have loads of talent, in my opinion. They finished second last season, and I think this team is deeper than the one from last season. They finished mid-table. Not even the teams in the 2010s, in the mid-2010s that had a really bad average squad were finishing 9th place. This is, to me, an embarrassment. It's an absolute failure. It starts from the top. I think Ibrahimovic, the work that they did, they fired Maldini, they spent 250 million euro, and now they're in 9th place. What a disaster. I think they all have to look at themselves in the mirror and think, why did this all go wrong?
A lot of players could be out the door, as could the manager, if you boys are correct. Where does this leave Christian, though, in terms of next season and really with this team?
I mean, he seems so happy at Milan, and that's the issue. I would put Pulisic and Reinders in the category of untouchable as the players throughout the season that have given me consistent performances that you need to do everything to keep those two at the club.
Reinders is out, man.
Reinders, we don't know. It depends the offer that they get. But you have to do everything because those are the guys that, for me, they played for the badge. They're the ones that in the tough moments came through.
Do you think Christian will want to stay?
He has a
he has a contract.
Because of not playing in Champions League football.
He could push a move, right? He's a champion.
Listen,
right?
you have the prime of your career is short. Right, and he's having a good time at Milan, no question. I'm sure what's not to like about living in Italy, especially in Milan with a storied club like that. But you have to play European football to be relevant.
There's other teams in Italy.
He said in his documentary, he has said, and we're not painting him out to be one of the best players in the world, right? But he's top player. But he has said himself, my goal is to be the best player in the world. Well, you can't be the best player in the world if you don't play European football. And so that's an issue for players like Pulisic, but for players across the board. They want to play in the top clubs, in the top competitions.
But they're not going to let Pulisic go if Reinders is already leaving. And apparently they're even losing one of Magnan and Teo, so they can't just sell all their best players. Then what? Then what is Milan? Pulisic's in a great situation now. So you don't finish.
Tell him.
You don't think
you're in 9th place?
You don't think he is? You don't think Pulisic is playing for Milan? He's making a lot of money. He's living. He said he loves living there. What more do you want as a player? Okay, you want Champions League. Get it this next season, and then a year from now you're back in Champions League.
They really
need World Cup year as well. Let's not forget that. He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders with the US being the captain, and now you're missing a big chunk of the season.
But that's risky too, Pop. We've seen guys who thought that they were greater pastures, who thought that they could go to certain places. You need everything to be perfect. Then you go to another team, and you better hit the ground running right away. Does the style fit you? Does the manager fit you? There's a lot of variables. To Matteo's point, he does have something very solid at Milan, and as we keep saying, he's very happy there. Then he has to make a decision. The club has to make a decision. For me, what Milan need to do as a club is look at what Napoli did last year. Napoli took a hard look in the mirror. ADL accepted the mistakes that he made because he made massive mistakes, signing Rudy Garcia and everything that happened there. They got the best possible coach in the world. They paid big money for that coach. They got rid of the guys who didn't want to be part of the squad. They didn't beg players to stay there. They got a really capable sporting director in Giovanni Manna, who was at Juventus before and who knew a lot of the young players. And look where they are now. They're going into the last match day, and they could possibly win the Scudetto. That's what Milan need to look at.
Is Pulisic a starter in the other best Champions League teams, by the way?
I mean,
is he starting? If you're looking at Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern Munich, is Pulisic a starter on those teams, on the top teams in Europe? No, we're not. Like we all really like Pulisic, right? But also, if you go to a top team, a top 8 team, I don't know if Pulisic's a starter there, and that's not bad. Like he's still a very good player. But to stay at Milan, where you're one of the guys, and they can build this team around you, I think that's the smart move for Pulisic. If he goes to Liverpool, he's not playing. Goes to PSG, he's not playing. Bayern Munich, probably the same thing. Like, there's a lot of teams that you could say that where it would be tough for a right winger which he is now, to get, I think, good time to play. But I think he would start for
a lot of the others, right?
Of course he would, but not the top teams.
The very few at the top. And as Tony just said, maybe the bigger worry is which manager are they going to get that's going to come in and take on a team that's not playing Champions League football? Maybe they need you to predict them winning the Scudetto next season.
I'm not predicting that. Not in this.
Listen, Napoli finished 10th and they attracted Antonio Conte. Milan will attract a massive manager. I don't think they need to continue with Concacaf if they don't want to.
But they made poor decisions. They made the wrong choice after the wrong choice. Just like Concacaf was not the guy to get after Fonseca. So I'm just saying it doesn't give me that confidence that they will make that correct decision is my issue.